Today, we have the pleasure to feature managers and program directors from National Health Innovation Centre Singapore, entity under the Consortium for Clinical Research and Innovation, and also SME Centre at Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, an initiative of Enterprise Singapore to share with us about the capability assistance programs that business can explore and some other key funding schemes and further information on application process. So today's main topics will be on the type of funding schemes, the main application criteria, and also the two speakers will work with us on some of the successful startups and licensed technology examples they have granted in the past. So I'll actually introduce the two speakers. The first speaker is actually Dr. Trayunjin Roger from NHIC. Roger is actually the Innovation Manager of National Health Innovation Centre Singapore, an entity under the Consortium of Clinical Research and Innovation. So prior to joining NHIC, Dr. Roger was actually very actively involved in multiple cross-functional research projects focusing on bioprocessing, biomaterials, biomedical devices in the field of regenerative medicine. At NHIC, Dr. Roger guides and mentors biopharma and diagnostics projects to fruition along the commercial pipeline through active engagement, strategic management, and public-industry partnerships. So without further ado, I will invite Dr. Trayunjin to give us the presentation. Dr. Tra, please.
Hi, sorry, just now I forgot to unmute myself. So my name is Trayunjin, and together with me is Juan for NHIC. So probably now I'll just share my screen and start my presentation. Okay, so together, today we are actually talking about the roles of NHIC in catalyzing healthcare innovation and enterprise in Singapore. So over the years, the population is aging and there's an increase in the disease burden, as well as the healthcare spending expenses has been increasing as well. So to keep pace with the disease progression, we have to speed up innovations such that we can actually roll down the healthcare costs and as well as to bring better healthcare outcomes to the patients. So looking at these diagrams, we can see that over on the left-hand side is a research, is all the research institute that actually came out with innovation technologies, and there's actually a huge gap towards commercialization and clinical adoptions. So after the innovation development, a lot of people will be thinking, how can we actually bring it over? And when they start thinking about the process to bring over the commercial platforms, they realize that there's a lot of process that need to be done. For example, prototyping, regulatory concerns, marketing, partnerships, and as well as how to come up with a business plan. So scientists and clinicians are actually very unfamiliar with this. And over here, NHIC would like to be the bridge to innovation success. At this point of time, probably a lot of people have been currently thinking. So, the W and H questions. So, what is NHIC? What do we do? And why do we need to do all this? And how we do to actually achieve innovation success? Okay, just a moment and we'll get answers to you. So, National Health Innovation Centre is a national innovation and enterprise office that caters the public healthcare cluster with translational funding and strategic guidance to accelerate healthcare innovation and commercialization. Alike with other IO offices in Singapore, we want to develop Singapore as a leading hub for health innovation and enterprise in Asia, so as to drive impactful health and economy outcomes for Singapore. So how do we do this? So we actually do it by funding, mentoring, and partnership. So let me go deeper into it. So where are we? We are actually part of the Ministry of Health Humanity. As you can see, this is the Ministry of Health, and under it is an NHIC holding. So NHIC is actually a business unit under the Chris family. So, and this is where we are. So we have established in 2014, and this is our 6 years in action. Okay, so for the Singapore healthcare systems, the entire Singapore healthcare system is actually divided into 3 healthcare clusters. So on the west side, NUHS, National University Health System, actually cover the west side. And at the central, National Healthcare Group is actually managing the central portion of Singapore, and for the southern and eastern part of Singapore is actually managed by SingHealth. And interestingly, each region has each medical school. For example, like the only School of Medicine is in the west, Yin Kuo Chuan School of Medicine is in the central, and as well as NUS covers the east and southern part of Singapore. So what kind of funding we actually provide? So as you can see, from development to translational. In the development phase, we actually provide innovation to protect funding to cover the greater expenses of innovations. And for development of innovation technology, we do provide innovation to develop funding that support the development of this technology into commercial attractive products. And towards the translational, if let's say the team is actually interested into bringing this technology into a startup company, so we have this I to Start funding that we'll cover later. And then if let's say the team is actually trying to develop a pipeline of therapeutic drugs or treatments, so they can actually apply for the STDR projects. And lastly, if let's say the team is going to co-develop technology with industrial partners, they can actually apply for the I2I, which eventually the technology will be licensed to the company. So let me go deeper into it. So for innovation to develop, so the funding criteria is actually to bring healthcare impacts and ensure that the product has commercial potential. So before they apply, they should have strong preliminary data and also a technology development press to bring it over. So this funding actually cater for the development of a healthcare innovations to a commercial attractive endpoint. So on the right, you can see is an innovation industry grant. Similarly, the funding criteria is almost the same to the left, just that they need to have a binding agreements with the company such that after the development of this technology, the license of the technology will be actually, the IP of the technology will actually be licensed to the industrial partners. So STDR is actually launched this year. It's a partnership with Smart, as well as NHIC. It's a strategic partnership funding program to provide a larger content to progress healthcare therapeutic innovation towards further development, commercialization, and enterprise formation in Singapore. And if the thing is looking for a startup, we do have this I to Start funding. This is actually a partnership with Smart NHIC Enterprise SG, provide a bigger funding and a single approval systems to fund development of technology towards the startup of a company. So as you can see, Smart and NHIC actually covers the development of the technology, establish the company, and after that, ESG will come in to support the development of the company. This type of funding scheme is actually reduce a lot of paperwork, as this is only a single approval systems, and it provide a larger funding with a lot of project resources that is provided by the 3 agencies. So what kind of technology areas that we actually covers? Basically, we divide into 2 parts, the medtech and the biopharma projects. But not limited to all this, the medtech can cover the diagnostic, surgical tools, ITs, and for the biopharma will be drugs, cell therapies, biomolecules, or gene therapy. So we provide support beyond funding. NHIC doesn't just provide funding. We do encourage the team to pre-engage us so that we can actually understand what is the stage of the development and whether they are suitable for our grant. And after that, once we know that what commercial outcome they are looking into, we'll assign the kind of funding to them for them to apply. So even before applying for funding, right, we can actually link them out with strategic partners to better assess their technologies, and then which actually allows them to get them well prepared for their own proposals. This will actually help them to de-risk their proposal and have a better, higher chance to get the funding approved. So if the project has been approved, each project will be actually supported by a NHIC project manager and a pool of consultants and partners. So for example, during the project's development, if the teams require regulatory advice, we can actually engage one of our consultants to advise the team what to do. And of course, we can do product risk assessment and prototyping, link them out with prototyping office so that they can actually carry out all this. In terms of commercializing, we do have marketing strategies, such as when there's conference like Techno Innovation Reach, we do involve our project team to participate in this event to showcase their technology, so as to attract investors coming or industrial partners to co-develop the technology with them. So also, we do have strategic partnership with the public agency so that you can link them to the right agency to answer any questions they need to address. And we do have business consultants to actually help them to develop their business plan as well. So the journey doesn't end when the project ends. We build a long-term relationship with all the project teams. So after the post-grants, we do help them to market their technologies through events like Stretch, Techno Innovations, and also we do have a lot of sharing sessions with the accelerators, incubators, investors, and we can bring this technology to them so that the investors can come in to have a look, and if they are interested, they can actually take out the technologies. And then also in the meantime, when they're in the company phase, when they have any regulatory that they need to advise to, we can actually provide our regulatory consultants to actually assist them as well as we also have this strategic partnership with all the public agencies, healthcare cluster, and we can actually link them out to the right partners to answer their questions. So this is actually one of the examples. That's the Stretch event that's held last year in 2019. So as you can see, we can actually exhibit their technologies in the events, as well as we allow the startups to actually showcase their technology in our booth. So this will allow them to market their products and attract investments. We have a wide range of partners in the Singapore ecosystems. So we partner with the healthcare cluster systems, have appointed consultants, the regulatory product developments, such that we can actually provide these consultants to the project teams for them to have their questions answered. And then, of course, we know that scientists and clinicians, they may not have these commercial backgrounds. So we do engage Singapore Biodesign to provide trainings for the clinician and the teams in terms of regulatory, product development, business development. So we also have partnership with all these the rest of the public agency, such as the Clinical Trial Registry, Diagnostic Hearts, Digital Health and IT Educations. We also have connection with trade associations such as the IPAMAX and IPOs, and of course investors as well. So throughout these 6 years, what have we done? We have 35 licenses facilitated, and the total licensing revenues received of more than $760,000. So until now we have 12 startup companies registered, and we have a total of more than 470 innovators participate in our events. So these are some of the examples of the startups that has received our grants, and which they have actually successfully spin out as a company. So one of the examples is Quantum DX. So NUS London School of Medicine, they actually apply for our I2D grants, and they actually utilize this grant to develop the prototypes and test out 20 post-ACL patients. And now they have actually some of their machine has already been adopted in some of the wellness centers for the elderly to use. This Quantum DX is actually a rehabilitative device targeting benchmark markets in the rehabilitation, post-musculoskeletal surgery, and test performance enhancement. And some of the elderly, after using this machine for a few times, they actually gain some muscle powers and without the need of exercise to climb up staircase again. So Anlophone is another successful story, and of course, we play a small role in this. So we applied an NHIC, we applied the Singapore and National Heart Center Singapore, applied the NHIC I2D grants, and they use this grant to utilize for optimization of that candidates at the CRO. And after which, with all the milestone meet, with, of course, other major grants, they obtain a Series A fundings. So these are some of the technologies that is developed with us and has been licensed. So one of the story would be successful story will be Vivo Surgical. So they actually developed a one-time use disposable lighting system that can be used to light out certain region during surgery in the certain area of surgical sites to actually light out the areas and allow the surgeon to access the area for surgical procedures. So what do grantors actually look for? Firstly, we are looking for a good quality project that enhances the success rate of the project. Secondly, achievable. Is the project able to meet the milestone and achieve performance indicators? And lastly, we look at the impacts. What impacts can the project create? Economies for Singapore, healthcare, will it bring a better healthcare to the patients, and social outcomes? So some of the factors include clinical integration, go-to-markets, and value creations. And I thank you, the audience, for listening to this presentation. And do check us out at our website and LinkedIn page for more exciting on this. Thank you. Richard, back to you.
Yes. So thank you, Dr. Chua, for exciting presentation and walking us through the various stages in pre-grant, grant management, and also post-grant commercialization, and also management as well. So I will actually collate the questions from the audience and also combine with all the other questions from the second speaker as well to answer together at the end of this presentation. So I'd like to introduce, thank you, Dr. Chua. So I'd like to introduce our second speaker, Ms. Deepa Supia from SME Centre at SICCI. So SME Centre at SICCI is an initiative of Enterprise Singapore and provides small and medium enterprises with easy access to business advisories to help them to start, sustain, and grow their business. So Ms. Deepa has spent many years working with multinational and biotechnology and pharmaceutical companies in her expertise. Her experience working in the biotech and pharmaceutical areas has given her the opportunity to meet many potential clients and assist them in building their business. So without further ado, I would like to pass on to Ms. Deepa for her presentation, please. Ms. Deepa, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank Biotech Connection for giving us the opportunity to present today. Just let me share my screen. Okay. Is everyone able to see my screen? Rachel, is it okay?
Yes, it's perfect. Please go ahead.
Okay, okay, great. Okay. Firstly, before I touch on today's topic on capability assistance programs under this Biotech Connection webinar, I just want to give you a brief introduction of what exactly SME is all about. So firstly, SME Centre at SICCI was established in 2008. And as per what Rachel has mentioned in the earlier stage, is that we are an initiative of Enterprise Singapore. All of you might be wondering, what are the kind of services as a business advisor we provide? Firstly is business advisory, where we will engage to our clients one-to-one to understand what are their business needs and to also address what are their gaps. And from there, we will actually propose or recommend the solutions or maybe assistance which is best needs and fits their business at that moment. Secondly, we also conduct capability workshops. For example, we have conducted capability workshops relating to topics such as marketing, internalization, where we will have our internal business advisors, as well as we will partner with the expertise industry speakers too. Thirdly, we also conduct diagnostic tests. For instance, if you have any gaps in maybe your HR or your marketing, you want to look into the areas that you want to improve. So we will have a one-to-one diagnostic test. For example, for marketing, we will conduct a SWOT analysis to look into your strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. From there, we will see which area you need to improve and which area you're doing well, and maybe you want to move further and improvise it. So we will provide certain solutions, and you can embark on the solutions and the ideas. And lastly would be group-based upgrading. For example, since for biotech or pharma, we will actually maybe take about 10 SMEs under the same industry. We will see what are the common issues or problems they are facing, and we will come to a solution to find what can we recommend to address this problem or issue this particular industry is facing. So we have done group-based upgrading for like industries such as childcare, even for maritime, and so forth and so forth. Okay, Enterprise Singapore does not only work alone. We also partner with a lot of other agencies, as you can see from the screen, like IMDA, for hiring or training, SkillsFuture, WSG E2I, and other agencies such as STB, LTA. What are the kind of assistance are we actually providing? Firstly, is grant and loans. Okay, for one important thing you need to understand is that for grants and loans, the most important thing, you need to have at least 30% local shareholding, whereas for toolkits and tax incentive, you don't need to have such a criteria. Okay, now we're actually talking on like startups. So you may have a business idea in plan, or you already started your business, and you'll be asking, okay, Deepa, what are the startup programs that we can tap on? Here, I would like to share with you on some of the programs. Firstly, it is the Startup SG Founder. It was being enhanced just this year, 2020. And this fundings is for Singaporeans or PR. And now the cap amount is up to 50K and is being enhanced. And the program has been revised in a way that it has comprises into 2 tracks. Firstly is the Startup SG Founder Train track. So what will happen at this juncture is that Enterprise Singapore has appointed the venture builder as well as accredited mentor partners, whom is actually already listed in our website. You can engage them and they will provide a 3-month venture programs. For why actually you may need a venture builder accredited mentors is because in a way that if you are first-time entrepreneurs, you have a business plan, but you do not have much entrepreneurial skills to start it, or you don't know how to go about. So these mentors will come on board and help you with setting up your business, as well as they will try to find for you co-founders and guide you and train you on how to exactly move your business further. The second part is the Startup SG Founder Start Track. So a team of entrepreneurs, they can approach ESG pointed mentor partners with their innovative business ideas. Okay, and the most important thing at this start track is that the startups are required to raise and commit 10K as co-matching fund to the grant. And there'll be questions asking, what is the eligibility required in order for me to apply for this Startup SG Founder? Firstly, your team needs to have at least 3 Singapore citizens or PR. They should be the main applicants, okay? And at least 2 or 3 first-time entrepreneurs and minimum 51% of shareholding, either from the Singapore citizens or the PR. Next is Startup SG Tech. For example, your business is into developing a product, technology, or it could be something relating to medical biotech. So the funding will be up to 250K, and for the POC. POC is proof of concept, where you have the concept, but you haven't had the prototype. And for some startups, they already have the prototype and they want to move forward. So that's called proof of value, and that cap amount will be 500K. So what are the eligibility? The same thing is you need to have a 30% local shareholding, and the company or the startup should be less than 5 years. Next is Startup SG Equity. This is more of a co-funding. Okay, so what will happen is that there'll be a co-fund. Sorry for there'll be co-investment with a third party. So, for example, for General Tech, there will be a co-funding of up to 250K. Okay, with the ratio of 7:3. And after this 250K, there will be a ratio of 1:1 thereafter for the 2 mil. For the deep tech, if your startup or your technology is under deep tech, the investment cap will be 7:3 for up to 500K. And after that, for 1:1 for 8 million, up to 8 mil. And this has been enhanced as of 2020. Next program is the Startup SG Accelerator. This is mainly to support the incubators as well as accelerators to catalyze their opportunities, to see the potential in the startups. And we there is providing for funding as well as also non-financial support. Sometimes you don't really need financial support. There'll be some areas where you need some skills or some areas you want to improve, or how do you exactly go about studying the whole business. So Startup SG Accelerator would be one of the programs. And these are other of the Startup SG programs, such as Startup SG Talent, where it will come from, where if you're looking into hiring someone, okay, like an intern, for instance, so you can actually tap under the Global Ready Talent Program. Okay, we are actually partnering with tertiaries such as polytechnics or ITs or even universities, where interns can come on board to help you during the development of the technology. And this is under the Startup SG Talent, as well as Startup SG Investor, which is the angel investor tax deduction. So sometimes you may need an investor to come in to invest in your technology or your business idea. So this is where Startup SG Investor comes in place. And for instance, you are finding for a place to actually to do your research work, and that's where Startup SG Infrastructure Grant will come in. So we are partnering with JTC Launchpad, and this is supported by A-Star, IMDA, NRF, and ESG. So mainly if your course of work is more into biomedical sciences or ICT, media, clean tech, you can actually tap into this Startup SG Infrastructure. Next one is Startup SG Loan. For example, you are actually starting a business and you've already did your Series A, Series B raising of funds, and you want to actually maybe get a loan to move further, because sometimes research work, there's a lot of money being involved, and sometimes under your fundings and your series, after you raised enough funds, you may need additional money to run the whole research work to be completed. So you can actually look into our Startup SG Loan to bring your business forward and to continue on your development. Okay, initially I was talking to you all on all those startup programs that you can tap on, mainly for all the first-time entrepreneurs. Now, if once your business have actually been in a matured state, maybe more than 2 years, and you're looking into areas to improve, there's one grant that I would like to share with you. It's called the Enterprise Development Grant. What is exactly an Enterprise Development Grant? This is to help businesses to grow, not only locally as well as also out of Singapore, as well as also to transform. Sometimes you want to transform your business by adopting a solution or even buying equipment to transform from manual to digitalization. So EDG will come in. So core capabilities, the first area, your projects. If your project is addressing under this core capability, for example, I can just maybe illustrate maybe financial management. You do not have you maybe have a financial manager, okay? But you feel that you need an additional financial manager to join in the business, and you feel that there's certain areas in your that you want to improve in your financial perspective. So you want to get in a consultant in to advise certain area on how certain things that can be improved in the way that you're handling your financial processes. And when you want to engage a particular consultant, we have actually enterprise approved consultants, and they are all from the different certification bodies such as the TÜV, and further there's 2 more other bodies that we also partner with. And when you engage them, you can tap under EDG under core capabilities project. Secondly, if your project addresses innovation productivity, whereas like for research or pharma or biotech, sometimes you will be getting some equipments to develop equipment. To develop your product or to move your technology. That's where automation comes in, right? So if your project is under automation, you can actually tap under EDG under innovation productivity. And for product development, when you are coming out with a new product, okay, like a product A or product B for your scientific or your clinical trial, then that could be actually tapped under the project for product development under innovation productivity for EDG grant. Lastly is market access. For instance, once you've already built your business and you see potential out of Singapore, and you want to venture into a country, maybe Australia or US, and you want to set up a sales representative office, a sales office or representative office, and you want to place someone down there to run the business or the research work there, do ensure that your first person needs to be a Singaporean. Second person higher can be from the local market itself that you are starting a business. So that project will come under OMP. So these are quite a common project that most of our clients have been tapping onto. So under market access, OMP and standard adoptions are quite common. Definitely there'll be questions you'll be asking like, Deepa, in order to qualify for EDG, what are the eligibility criteria I need to meet? Firstly, your business needs to be registered in Singapore, and you need to have minimum 30% local shareholding, as well as you need to be also financially viable to start and complete the project. That's why I was saying that EDG will be more suitable for businesses who are much more mature. And one good news is also that the support level has been increased up to 80% as of 2020. And there's a further extension too. Okay, normally for EDG project, there'll be a proposal that need to be submitted. So I'm showing an example of a proposal template here, which is under the project of innovation and productivity. So you can see that the first part is just about your company. Just elaborate about your company. What are the growth plans and what are you looking into? What are your main products and services that you're offering? And what are your targets? If you're planning to venture overseas, what are the markets that you're looking at? And number two, about the project. For example, if it's about innovation productivity, it's more of adopting a solution or maybe an equipment. So you can actually look at number two and fill out the respective questions. And this proposal, don't worry, it can be, once you have done it, you can actually send it to us and we will look through and we will, if there's any further amendments or suggestions, we will share with you. And you can, upon everything being good, you can do the submission via the portal. The portal. Next grant that I want to talk to you about is Market Readiness Assistance. For this Market Readiness Assistance, this grant is basically for those who are venturing out and you are traveling, maybe for example, now if there's a biotech exhibition in maybe US, you want to attend, you might be thinking, but the cost is pretty expensive. I'm going to be exhibiting about my business there, and it's quite costly, and the rental of the space that you're going to use for your exhibition, this will be covered under your overseas market promotion, which is capped up to 20K. And second, overseas business development. If your project is that you feel that maybe upon attending the exhibition or being exhibited, you feel that that market is the one that you want to venture into, but you're not so sure because it's your first time there. You're not so sure whether you don't have much vendors or partners or suppliers. You do not really have much contact there. So what will happen is that you will engage a third-party consultant. So this costing will come under the overseas business development, and the cap amount is up to 50K. Lastly, overseas market setup. Once you've decided that that particular market is the one that you want to venture into, definitely there'll be a startup fees or incorporation fees that will be covered under the overseas market support and market setup, and the amount will be up to 30K. And the funding is up to 70K for over 3 years, up to 31st March 2023. So this is a snapshot of in-depth of what MRE, the overseas market promotion, covers. So for further information, do not worry, you can always raise questions during our Q&A. And this is for overseas business development, capped at 50K. Just what are the supportable activities, such as like licenses or agents, like what I was sharing with you, like a more of a business matching. And this is overseas market setup, capped at 30K. And these are the activities that it supports, as well as what are the deliverables you need to provide in order to get this MRA grant. And the same question you'll be having is, what is the eligibility criteria? So firstly, it needs to be registered in Singapore and you need to have at least 30% local shareholding. Now, lastly, I want to talk to you about another grant, which is called the Productivity Solution Grant. This grant is basically for support up to 80% qualifying costs, and all these vendors are pre-approved vendors from Enterprise Singapore. So there's a maximum cap, which is 30K per company per year. You might be wondering, what kind of solutions do they have, or what kind of equipment does under PSG covers? So there are some examples here. For example, if under biotech, you may feel that there are certain equipment you're getting. So when you go into the portal, you just select your industry, and when you select equipment or solutions, you can see what are the recommended solutions or equipment that will fit your business. And if you feel that that's something that is actually strikes you and that's something that you want to get, just reach out to the vendor, and you can, once everything is good to go, you can apply under the productivity solution one. And recently there was new solutions being added due to the current epidemic, such as like online collaboration tools, virtual meeting tools, because you need to have those one-to-one meetings since you are not able to have face-to-face meeting, right? So these are certain tools that has been introduced as of this year. And the eligibility criteria would be the same too, that it needs to be registered and operating in Singapore with at least a minimum, need to have a minimum of 30% local shareholding. And I hope that this presentation was fruitful for all of you. And if you have further questions, do approach me and my team at the contact numbers that we have actually reflected in the slides, as well as do drop us an email if you're not able to reach us. And we are more than happy to address your business, or if you have no idea, or you need assistance, you have a business plan, you want to know how to move forward, you can definitely reach out to us. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, thank you, Ms. Deepa, for a very informative presentation. So now we'll actually move on to the Q&A sessions. We have gathered questions from the audience, so that we'll actually direct these questions to the two speakers. First, I would like to direct one of the questions to Roger, please. So from the audience, they will ask that, how was the funding sources matched to the project? When the application is successful, is there a tiered system to allocate the projects based on the funding required? Any other criteria for the matching process? Yeah, thank you for your answers in advance. Yeah. Hi, Roger, you need to unmute yourself, sorry.
Yes, sorry. Yeah. So usually we actually encourage the applicants to pre-engage us so as to better understand how the technology is and also what commercial outcomes they are actually looking into. So if let's say they are looking into licensing, then we actually kind of like look into the assign to apply for the I2D funding. And let's say if they are to look into a startup company, and then we actually recommend to start funding. And also, I mean, NHIC is a real part into the health tech innovation ecosystem. So we don't not only providing NHIC funding, we also can link them out to other kind of ecosystems partners that they are more suitable to. For example, let's say if they are in the very early phase, we can actually link them out to a smart innovation center to apply for funding too. So this is how we actually carry out our pre-engagement. Yes.
Thank you. Also, a follow-up question from the audience is that, so what are the key considerations in the project development phase after awarding the grant? You know, based on your current portfolio that have been successfully launched, some of the healthcare startups, what's the percentage of companies that actually gone to clinical trials, and some of them actually, you know, with a means support by the NHIC team?
Okay, so for this, right, some of the startup companies that are successfully going into this commercial will be like, for example, the content TS that we have mentioned. So these are actually one of the successful startup, and also we have like other companies like Iris. Iris is a startup company that's actually successful. They have even this Selena Plus that has actually allows to detect some kind of like retinopathy issue. So Paris Rare can actually check into the discussion. Yeah. Sure.
Hi.
Yeah.
So I think that there were two parts to the question, right? The key considerations that we have. So maybe firstly, I'd like to just stress that NHIC's projects are mostly in very early stage. And I guess for most of us who have been, you know, scientists and engineers before, we do understand that in any R&D project, we can appreciate that there would be a lot of pivoting points throughout the entire project. So the considerations that we have after we award a grant is that we are actually very mindful of the fact that there is always going to be a need for pivoting in R&D activities, and because of that, hence NHIC does actively manage projects to ensure that most of our key deliverables and milestones are still met. And what this really means is that it doesn't matter what they pivot into, but from NHIC's point of view, we will do the due diligence to ensure that whatever new direction that a project would go into would still position the project to be on track for commercialization. Because like what Roger has mentioned, the outcomes that NHIC really wants to see is commercialization, right? And to your second point, I think it was companies from ourselves in NHIC's portfolio that has gone into clinical trial. Is that right? Yeah, so maybe first I'd like to highlight that clinical trial itself is an impressive milestone for any health tech related projects. Yeah. And given that we are seeing more and more of projects being spun off at or licensed at a very early stage, it's even a very impressive milestone for startups and spin-offs. So to back to the point that I think Roger was making just now about some of the successful companies we have seen the acquisition of rights by a large pharma MNC who has actually acquired the rights to the preclinical platform of one of our startups, which we supported prior to its spin-off. And this preclinical platform will continue to be developed, or will continue its clinical development under the direction of this big pharma. So that is, I think, something that would be pipelined into or will go into clinical trials, hopefully in the near future. There was another one, I think Roger did present in his slide, Claro, and that has actually already received Class 2 FDA registration and HSA approval, which means it also has gone through a certain amount of clinical evaluation. And I think on top of my head, I can't think of any at the moment, but I know there are several other projects, mostly in the therapeutic space, that have gone into small scale first-in-man studies, which we have actually supported. So I think these are some of the examples that I can think of now. But by and large, most of our portfolio, because I mentioned like our projects are still very early, hence our portfolio is really a lot in the preclinical validation stage. I think some are starting to see the light, of getting a clinical trial very soon, of going into clinical trial very soon. But at the moment, I think these are the three examples that I can think of. Maybe I'll also take this chance to really stress that, clinical trial, before clinical trial, there are actually still a lot of stages that is actually very risky and still needs a lot of consideration. And the preclinical development itself is a very important consideration of any health tech project development. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Roger and Shuan, for the answer. This question is actually to Ms. Deepa at SICCI. So the audience actually asks, can medical device manufacturing companies apply for PSG? And also, does the applicant have to come aboard with the technology already launched? Means that it's either IP protected or already with something that's in the form. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Tiffany, I just want to say that for PSG, don't worry, you can actually apply for the grant. But it's just that most importantly, we need to also know how long has the business has been incorporated in Singapore. If it's a startup business, the most important thing is that you need to be firstly meeting the criteria. The eligibility criteria firstly is at least 30% local shareholding, and if you feel that that particular solutions or the equipment is actually going to best fit your business, and that's what something you're looking for, definitely you can apply for PSG. And from the list, for PSG, one thing is that they're all pre-approved vendors. So when you go into the link, so maybe you can drop us an email, I can guide you on which is the link that you need to go to. So all the available solution will be out there. From there, you can select which is the exact one that you're looking for. So for example, you realize that from the vendor list, that's not the particular equipment or solution that you are looking for, it's not found there. Then you can actually look into the EDG grant, which is the Enterprise Development Grant, where if you're looking at, for example, like a medtech or even like a biotech, normally the equipments are very customized, or you need even a solutions, for instance, like a HR or finance. It needs to be very customized to your business needs. So when there's a lot of customization involved, EDG grant would be more appropriate. Yes, Rachel.
Yes, thank you so much for the answers.
No problem.
So this is all one more questions from audience, and I would actually like both speakers to address. So I'll let Roger start first, and also back to you. So the question was that thank you for both speakers for an amazing talk. I was just wondering, would you have any advice for PhD graduates and looking at entering the biotech healthcare space, taking up a role as yours, a mix with science, business, and also innovation experiences? Are the roles considering looking after graduations, or how's the way to enter such a role, based on your experience? Yeah.
Okay. So especially for PhD graduate, I mean, for myself, also a PhD graduate, right? So basically to enter to such role, I think one of the few criteria is you have to have the passion in translating all this healthcare technology into commercial products, and so as to bring better healthcare impacts and Singapore, to improve Singapore economies. So basically, understanding, I mean, when I was a PhD holder, when I wanted to enter into this, I may be thinking, I don't have the commercial backgrounds and I don't have the business background as well. So am I eligible to enter such a role? And I believe that organization like NHIC, they do provide a lot of training courses to us, and we can actually enroll into a lot of other training courses, like for example, MUS co-regulation, co-educations that can provide us with course to equip us with all these skills. So I think the most important criteria will be the passions to actually bring healthcare technology into commercialization to bring better healthcare impact.
Thank you, Roger. Yes, Ms. Deepa, would you like to add answers? Yeah.
Okay, actually, I would agree to Roger, because since I was having some experience working with pharma companies as well as tech companies, I realized when there's interns coming in, the most important thing is, you need to have a passion, as well as you also need to know what you're dealing with. Because when it comes to tech and biotech or medtech, the terms and the way things are done is a bit more different to a normal commercial business, right? So you need to make sure, know that what are the kind of tests that needs to be done, the studies. You need to have a lot of understanding, and if a particular intern, okay, if they want to graduate who wants to join this kind of firms, there are like a current program which is called SG United Traineeship Program. So maybe do check out on that, and that would really definitely benefit you, because I think like A-Star, or even like my clients who are startups, or even who has been in the business for more than maybe 5 years, they're also looking into giving opportunities for a lot of new graduates, or even those who are in those kind of fields that they can help in their business. Why not? So do not worry about your experience. Also, there's a lot of trainings that a lot of SMEs, or even a lot of major companies are willing to give.
Thank you, Ms. Deepa. And there's a follow-up questions from you from the audience as well. So does the Enterprise Singapore grant for MRA, if a Singapore company with an overseas lab can has such a grant assessed? That's the question.
Okay, so firstly the question would be, is the lab being operating in Singapore? That would be the first question that I would want to give you. So if your lab is positioned in Singapore, then you'll be definitely, because the most important thing is that your research work needs to be all done in Singapore itself. Okay, so that's the most important thing. So under this requirement, definitely EDG and MRE can come. MRE is more for overseas opportunities where you're going out of Singapore to market your business, or you want to attending a training, or you're attending an exhibition, or even being an exhibitor, or meeting potential suppliers or vendors for business matching. That will be for MRE. So for EDG, it's more of like product development, or more for like transforming your business through digitalization or customization. Yes.
I see, thank you. I think this question was directed to NHIC. So it asks, do you actually have the link or support the preclinical translations to pharma actually, or provide the link to support that translation? Roger, the mic, please.
So this question I probably pass to Shu An, who is actually in charge of the STDR programs. So Shu An.
Yeah, so we do have our own platforms, you know, in reaching out to pharma companies, but at the same time, I think because we do realize like the benefits that you can get by collaborating with our ecosystem partners, and therefore we do work a lot with the TTOs and the IEOs of institutions whom we understand have a lot of their own network, like they do have a lot of network in terms of reaching out to big pharma companies as well. And when we do identify projects that require this kind of network, we will therefore talk to the TTOs for such cases. In addition to that, also we have a connection, like we talk to ESG, EDB, quite a lot, and even A-Star BMS IPO, who also have like their own connection and their reach into the pharma companies. And as and when needed, they are always very helpful in terms of trying in terms of having us engage them or having our projects engage them to reach out then to the pharma companies. So I would say yes, we have different mechanisms to actually get up to actually reach out to pharma companies. And the support for therapeutics, I think it cannot be a one-man show. Like it just won't be NHIC alone. It will have to involve a lot of parties, and A-Star being one of the big players in biopharma, we work collaborative with them as well. And I think as Roger has mentioned just now in his slide on the STDR, we are going to continue to play a role in supporting the STDR program and to sort of get more pharma pipelines from Singapore and put it out there, globally.
Thank you, Shura and Roger. That's actually very exciting, even for my information as well. So I think we'll just have the last questions for both speakers. Actually, especially during this COVID period, but still, there's still a lot of exciting initiatives starting. So could you just share with us, one current projects you're working on, or you see an upcoming company that actually approached you think has great potential, then you're willing to share with us some of the journeys you have worked with them, or something that you can share experience on, just to share with us with that. Thank you.
So for my side, right, probably I will share just one project. So there's this particular project that actually kind of use modified stem cells to target cancer therapies, therapeutics. So I think very interestingly, to get this into the markets, right, it needs a huge, it needs a lot of processing. And for example, if you want to send these cells to overseas for treatment, right, how do you going to send over? So they actually need to create a type of like transport medium that allow the cells to be transported to the overseas. So I think this is one of the projects that we are trying to put out with, and then of course we are also trying to pull in regulatory consultant to get all this approved, and so that this cell therapy can be actually make it successful in Singapore, that can help a lot of cancer patients. So this is one of the projects that is quite interesting, and it has been proved. This cell therapy has actually been proven in pet animal studies. They can reduce the tumor size, and then the animals actually surviving more than 5 years. And they also did a first-in-human trial. First in humans in Indonesia, and it actually shows that the patients is actually, the pain reduction is actually quite significant. So for this type of technology, we are actually still progressing well, and we are trying to link out a lot of like regulatory consultants and other partners to bring this technology out.
Okay, So for me, I know that, during this current epidemic, a lot of them will be thinking that, whether a lot of businesses are able to sustain. One good news is that I have like a client who have actually reached out to me. I've been actually following up with him for some time, because initially he come with me with the proof of concept. He had this plan that he was actually working with a US company, but they are the main driver. Okay, the client is the main driver in Singapore with all the ideas and the development for this cancer research. So they are developing an equipment to look into for cancer patients. So and then after they have this POC, then they move into the POV. So once they have been communicating with the US company, they develop the prototype. So once the prototype is done, like I was sharing that, this kind of prototype, it needs to go through a certain demos and it needs to get approval. Then only you can start actually, bringing out to your particular clients. So now he's actually in the prototype set part, where he's already been demoing with our hospitals like Khoo Puat and even to Tan Tock Seng. So currently that is one major project that I'm actually working. And he also did apply for the Startup SG Tech because he's developing a technology. And yes, I'm looking forward to really to guide him further in this project.
Right. So thank you so much, Roger and Deepa, sharing with us with such an informative session and also valuable exchanges with the audience. I'm sure that audience have most of the questions answered. If not, we'll actually be uploading this webinar. We have the recordings we'll be uploading to the BCS YouTube channels. So do keep an eye on that, and also follow up with us, and also check out the recordings. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email the two main speakers, and we're happy to be the channel to direct you to them. So with that, I would like to conclude today's BCS Startup Schemes on funding schemes. So thank you so much again, Roger and Deepa, for joining us today, and thank you for the audience for your patience. So have a good lunch. Thank you, everyone. Bye.